Question of the day: what is your favorite app-driven game, or app-assisted game, I should say? And that can be in any fashion. It can be something so simple as in a game that has an assisted app that kind of helps you set things up, or a la, what's the game with the Alchemist, right? Or maybe it's some of the more heavy app-driven games like Mansions of Madness and Descent and Imperial Assault and that set. Or maybe it's Chronicles of Crime, which is what we're talking about today. A game not by Chronicles of Crime, but the game by the same group of people. This is from Lucky Duck. This is called Destinies, and it takes the point and shoot kind of Chronicles of Crime QR code system, and it takes it to a different level. This is an RPG in which you don't need a dungeon master, essentially, which is kind of what Mansions of Madness is to. That is the Call of Cthulhu for people who don't have a dungeon master, essentially. But this is a little bit more RPG like, but it also does kind of have the same borders that Mansions of Madness and those other ones have. So what is Destinies? It's this really interesting kind of Middle Ages sort of lore that has monsters and things, but it's also kind of woven into Middle Ages, even religious kind of facets and things like this. So it's an interesting and tricky theme that's handled in a pretty interesting way. So we're going to take a look at what Destinies does, the app assisting and all that sort of stuff. Come back up, talk final thoughts right now. So here's Destinies laid out, and I say laid out, essentially what's going to happen is you're going to pick one of these player boards. They're the same, and basically you're going to pick the mission in the app. You're going to choose which one you want. We'll look at that in just a minute. So for instance, you might be the Huntsman or the Noble or the Witch. Depending on which mission you pick will be the ones that are available to you. So let's just say we pick the Huntsman. Well, in the app it'll tell you where to start your stats. This one, and this one. You'll put a certain number of these discs out there onto your stats. And let's just put 2 for each. It's not actually 2 for each. I want to say it's 2, 3, 4 in the first mission especially. But let's just say they're here currently, and just to give you an explanation of how skill checks work. The skill checks are very simple. What I like about this game is it looks complex, but it takes away the complexity and makes it simplicity in a good way. So you're going to get 2 dice always that you're going to roll every single time. Now you have fatigue dice over here that you can potentially get if you choose to use them or if they get put back in to your hand. So let's just say I'm rolling this. You're going to add up that number. Let's say it was a book check. Anything to the left of that number. So I rolled a 5. So if it's 5 or lower, any dot there counts as a success. So if I'd have rolled an 8, I'd have 2 successes here. You mark in the app what you've done. Now, this symbol on the fatigue dice is an automatic success. You would actually make that a 3 successes. If you spend the fatigue dice, they get fatigued, and then you will put them in later when someone says refresh those dice. So this is not the bulk of the game though. Now this is just what your interface looks like, but again it is an RPG. So before I can really show you any of the other components, I'm going to quickly show you some things I can show you. But the one thing about Lucky Duck games that I really like, kind of like Chronicles of Crime, these images don't mean anything, right? They're just certain things, like there's people, but these images don't really mean a whole lot, so I'm going to flip through them quickly. They're not going to be spoilers because they can be used for other things. Something might give you this, etc. So you have this nice art style, very, very cool looking stuff. Basic items as well as some more complex story-driven items. But what I really want to show you now is when it comes to the components, these miniatures. Now look at the scale here. We're talking a tiny, tiny miniature, but it has a lot of detail. Think the size of Fury of Dracula, but smaller. I don't even know what the scale is here. These are tiny, but then you have some more kind of medium-sized figures here when it comes to some of the angels, etc. That look really, really great. Then you have obviously what you're seeing from the front of the box, this giant angel of death looking sucker here. Amazingly huge and very, very neatly detailed. A little flimsy, but only because you're talking about bones, etc. there. Look at that. Dark, foreboding. Scorpion tails. I mean, who doesn't like triple scorpion tails, right? So the production quality is out of the box. It's just, it's out of the park. It's so good. The game looks absolutely great. The art looks great. Every bit of this game looks good, and that's a plus for me. I want a game to look good when I'm going to invest time in it. You have these map tiles here that you're going to place on the board. Now they're going to give you certain images on the back, but when you flip them over, there's more to them. See, you don't really know because it's almost like fog of war. these will flip over, and then these tokens will be put on them, or a character will be put on them in the app. And the app will tell you, hey, touch this to do these certain skill checks. Now again, I'm not going to go into the app and show you a ton of stuff because I know what happens, spoilers. And if you're watching this and you don't want spoilers, well, obviously I don't want to show you what's going to happen, but you can click and see when it comes to what you need to see on how to do them in the app. It will show you as you're playing that first mission kind of what to do, but again, I don't want to spoil it. The first mission is a standalone, which everybody should play, but then the campaign picks up and you start kind of weaving your way through the campaign. But you have a lot of great components, a lot of things like that. Wanted to show you out of the box, just good looking stuff. And then we'll talk about the app for a little bit, show you a couple things, and then we'll come back up, talk final thoughts. So, a couple things to choose. There are some different modules to pick from, different missions to pick. You can pick normal 2 to 3 players, Challenger solo, Explorer solo, or Bound by Fate 2 versus 2. Challenger solo is the one that's really difficult. You're going to have to replay and play over and over. Explorer is the much easier version. So we're going to pick Explorer solo right now. Oh heck, we'll pick 2 to 3 for now. So it tells you the intro. We're going to skip that just in case you want it. You're going to choose your characters. We're going to go Huntsman, Witch, Noble. These are the only 3 available for this one. There are more characters, but in this main scenario, that's what you can pick. If you don't want to know spoilers, skip it, okay? I don't think there's going to be very many spoilers considering this is the very intro scenario. All right, here's where it tells you to set your intelligence, dexterity, and power. So 5, 7, 11, 12 on intelligence. That's those dots we talked about. He's the least dexterous, but he's got some power. You also start with a sword as your starting item, and he starts with 1 money and exhausts all your dice. So that's card number 14 is what that means. And that's his miniature right there. It shows you, and you can twist around, which is pretty neat. You got the Witch. All that same kind of stuff, tells you what you need to do. She's obviously weaker, she's more intelligent, etc. Starts with the talisman as your starting one. This guy takes a bow as your starting item, which is a one-time consumable, by the way, which is kind of a pain in the butt. Now his backstory is pretty cool. It's on the cards. And did everybody take this? Yes. Game, blah blah blah. Okay, so you put the tile out there. Now I'm not going to do this physically, but you would do this. You would take the tile number 2 and put it out there. Now we're not going to play through the whole scenario, but I'm going to get you far enough to where you can see some stuff about it. Put this dude on the church instead of the little tokens. Normally you'd put the tokens like this down here, but instead you're going to put him on there actually. Number 23 goes out here. As indicated, face down, it says. It's giving you some information about the smith and what you need to do. You also have your Destinies cards, which will show you. So it says the town center, stone circle, road through the forest is much safer, and then a wolf house somewhere in the meadow. So ideally you're trying to figure out some wolves. So we're going to go to the church. I'm going to click this first one. Now you could click this to explore the tile and move into it. You can move 2 spaces, but we're going to click the church. We're going to visit the church. You can pray. That's the first thing you can do. If you do, it's going to change your dice back. You can talk to him, ask him what troubles him. You could use this skill to steal money from the offering box, or you could scan your, and we'll click this, I don't have the card in front of me, you could scan it, hold it back here, scan it, and then click it, and it will tell you about the 2 destiny options you have, whether you want to be kind of the purple side or the gold side. So in our case, we're going to ask what troubles him. If you want to read that, you can. Gives you an option now, you can encourage him. So we're going to encourage him. So we're going to roll our normal dice. We're going to exhaust. We don't have any of the other ones exhausted. We should have prayed first, but we're going to roll our dice. Let's say we get 5 successes, or 2 successes. Sorry, we're going to get 2. Click confirm. You really think so? Blah, blah, blah. As soon as the fortune teller agrees to see me, I'll go pay her a visit. So just little things like that. Maybe if we'd have gotten more successes, it might have done more. We're going to end our turn. You could do all of the options there, right? That's part of it. You can do all the options that are available to you. Let me scoot this over just a touch. Yes. The witch goes. So if she goes here, let's see what happens if we do the same thing. Ask him what troubles him. See, you can do the exact same turn back to back. That's the thing about it, because it's not a cooperative game, it's a competitive game. So you're really 3 trying to figure this out all at once, which is different than, say, Mansions or the Lord of the Rings. That's the one I was thinking of. Tells you what to do, blah, blah, blah. You put this guy out here. Anyway, you keep going. You're going to keep exploring. Let's just say we explore over here. Boom, 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 boom. It's going to show you this stuff. You can explore. It flips out new tiles sometimes. And notice the art is connected, by the way, which I love. See, I'm not going to show you what's on these tiles. We can do the standing stones and see. Okay, and we can explore this. We'll do the standing stones. Boom. Meditate in the circle. Pray to the old gods of search the circle. Let's pray to the old gods. We're going to get 3 successes just to see what happens. If you don't want to spoil it, don't spoil it. Pray to the old gods, long forgotten. You gain a talisman. Okay, so there you go. So essentially, you're going to do that over and over until someone is able to start the finale. We're not going to skip to that and do it, but many things will happen. Monsters will show up. Bad things will happen. You'll fight. You'll do other tests, but it's more about the story and telling the story. But one of you will win because one of you will do the finale first. So that's Destinies. First and foremost, wow, this game looks good. It just feels good too. The pieces all feel nice. Now, the scale, to me, I actually like. I like that the scale is small to where you're not just eating up the entire table. A 4x4 grid of 16 cards making up a map is not this massive thing that takes up this huge space on your table. It's actually pretty small. And then the miniatures themselves, while being small, are incredibly detailed, and I do like that. And they are something you could paint if you wanted to, and you could paint rather quickly because of that. The big Angel of Death sort of figure is just incredible looking with the scorpion tails and everything like that. Looks good. Some of the larger figures, the monsters, look good as well. The cards themselves, the art on the cards looks good. Everything about this game looks good, from that to the insert sort of divider that it comes with the lids and everything. Everything about this looks good. So when you see it on the table, you go, wow, what is this game? I want to play this, right? The app also looks good. Now we're going to talk about, I'm going to go ahead and hit it pretty hard on this for one single facet that can be easily fixed, but when playing the game, I cannot stand the fact there's no log button, or at least I looked for it over and over all over the place. There's no log button to where, for instance, if you miss what to put in a trade stack for somebody, you miss it. You don't get access to it. I mean, yes, you can BGG it, but I don't want to do that. I want to be able to click a button and say, no, what did that say? Put which cards in there? Perfect. Or in my mind, I thought, okay, well, I missed it somehow, so I'll just click it to trade, and it says use the trade stack. I'm like, well, I don't know what the trade stack is. What is it? So I would have appreciated it more had it been, okay, hey, here are those cards again, just in case you're wondering. Or I'd go back up and scroll and read the messaging. If you miss a clue, if you miss something you were supposed to pay attention to, you also miss that. And so I'm not a fan of how you just can't go back and read the log of information you've already learned. Not information you haven't learned yet or that your character forgot, but information that you already learned. And that really bothered me because it made it quite difficult sometimes to kind of remember, now, what did they, who am I supposed to talk to? Because there's a lot of things that sound similar between the priest and the bishop, etc. You know, a lot of those things you're like, well, who am I supposed to ask about this again? Or where am I supposed to go? What are the crossroads again? So let's come back up for a minute out of the negative and talk about a couple more positive things. I do like how you interact with the app. I like how you move around the map, pick something to interact. There's no like heavy, you know, do I move 2 spaces and then do the interact and do this? Like you can get caught up sometimes in mansions. In this, you're opening up a space, moving on to and exploring, or you're moving on to a space and exploring something that's there. It's pretty straightforward. Now, here's what I don't like. I don't like that you're competitively playing. Like, this is a multiplayer game, 3-player game, but you're playing against the other players and you can win individually. That didn't grab me at all, that you can win individually in this. And so you say, okay, but Bryan, why not just play it solo? Or heck, you could even turn it into some sort of cooperative mode by just ignoring that rule. You could, but that's not how the game was made. Now, when playing solo, there's another issue I encountered, whereas the game is fantastic, it's good, but when I'm playing solo, obviously there's not as much accountability when you're playing. And I don't mean by cheating, well, I didn't roll that, I rolled 3 successes. What I mean is, eventually towards the end of some of the levels, it got to where I was like, basically just playing the app, and I would just look at the board and be like, oh, where'd I move? Oh yeah, that's right, I moved over here. To where I'm mostly focusing on the iPad and not the game. This is one of the pitfalls that people talked about when they were like, don't bring your app into my game. And I was never a fan of that argument. I thought, bring in more apps to my games. Let me just explore technology, even bring virtual reality, which Lucky Duck has done before. We call it augmented reality. Bring all that into my games. I'm good with that. Problem is, the one thing they said would happen actually happened in this game when you're playing it solo, which is mitigated when you're not playing solo because someone else will take the iPad, someone else will take the phone, and you're looking at the board and considering your options, looking at your items and stuff at that point. But when you're playing it solo, it becomes almost 60-40 video game, board game, and that part bothered me a little bit. So all in all, beautiful looking game. The theme's a little tricky. It's weird. I get my hackles up a little bit when the theme is what it is, but they handled it really well in a good way, and I thought it was cool, the mythos and all that sort of stuff. It was an interesting choice, and they handled it nicely. I thought it was good, and it looks good. Couple of tweaks I'd like to see, and this game could eventually, like, once these kind of tweaks are worked out, especially the ones with the app, and maybe introducing a more of a co-op feel. And again, if that's your bag, that's your bag. But for me, I feel like if those couple tweaks were made, this game would be just an out-of-the-park success. Now, I've been given some some pushback from Roy and Mike. Just joking. We all joke about this, about how dare I say this game deserves a lower score than what they gave it, but we're just playing around. But the idea is that those are the things that bothered me, but I can see where this would be a super high game for a lot of people. Just me and my personality, those few things, once fixed or once tweaked, would raise this game significantly for me. Currently, I'll tell you what I give it. I'm giving it a 6.57 right now. It's right on that border, right on that cusp. Just because of those tweaks took me out of the game just that much to where it made me want more. I want to play this game, right? But I got irritated with the few things like that in it, to where when I played, I'm like, okay, I really wish this was fixed. I really wish this was different. And doing that kind of hurts the experience for me. So if those things could be tweaked or fixed, whether it be an expansion or an update to the app, more power to it. So that's what I thought of Destinies from Lucky Duck Games. I'm Bryan Drake here on the Dice Tower. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, etc. at Dice Tower Bryan. Until next time, we'll see you.